All right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, I think we're live. All right, thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 430, Black Blockchain Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab that we post pretty frequently. Docket in the description will be the video for you to follow along with. If you want to engage in the discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. All right, let me get started with the first item on the docket. This one is from arstechnica.com. Intel SGX coughs up crypto keys when scientists tweak CPU voltage. Interesting. To counter the growing sophistication of computer attacks, Intel and other chip makers have built digital votes into CPUs to segregate sensitive computations and secrets from the main engine computers use. Now scientists have devised an attack that causes the software guard extensions, SGX, Intel's implementation of this secure CPU environment to divulge cryptographic keys and induce potentially dangerous memory errors. Plundervault, as the attack has been dubbed, starts with the assumption that an attacker is able to run privileged software on a targeted computer. While that's a lofty prerequisite, it's precisely the scenario Intel's SGX feature is designed to protect against. The chip maker builds SGX as a private region that uses hardware-based memory encryption to isolate sensitive computations and data from malicious processes that run with high privilege levels. Intel goes as far as saying that only Intel SGX offers such a granular level of control and protection, but it runs out of that subtle fluctuations in voltage power in the main CPU and can corrupt the normal functioning inside the SGX by subtly increasing or decreasing the current delivered to a CPU operation known as overvolting or undervolting. A team of scientists has figured out how to induce SGX faults that leak cryptographic keys, break integrity assurances, and potentially induce memory errors that could be used in other types of attacks. While the exploit requires the execution of privileged code, it doesn't rely on physical access, raising the possibility of remote attacks. The breakthrough leading to these attacks was the scientists' ability to use previous research into the undocumented model-specific register inside the x86 instruction set to abuse the dynamic voltage scaling interface that controls the amount of voltage used by a CPU. Also noteworthy is surgically controlling the voltage in a way that introduces specific types of attacks. So what happened here was that they were able to, and this has been known for a while, that Intel processors had this problem, because even at the on mobile phones, you can do the same thing. And so what happens here is the voltage that controls the CPU. So what you have with electronics is volts times amps will give you wattage. So what happens here is if you adjust the voltage beyond its threshold, then what happens, then the outcome or the output would be that the cryptographic vault would basically vomit the keys, or the cryptographic key for that matter. And the same thing happens when you decrease the voltage beyond its nominal threshold. It basically vomits the cryptographic keys. And so if you're using Intel CPUs with a blockchain for that matter, as well as any secretive sort of applications, you're fucking screwed. For lack of a better description, you are screwed. Bad guy gets in, launches a rat, which is a remote attack against your processor, knowing that your processor knowing that your computer has this processor. High probability, if he's able to run in a privileged state, then that means your cryptographic keys are null and void. There is nothing that can be done about that at that point. So if you have Bitcoin on your device, or if you use a digital wallet, if you're playing with Bitcoin on your device, you could very well find yourself in a situation where your wallet is compromised, as well as your data.
What it do, Mike?
What up? What up?
Chilling.
Right.
Yeah, I was just listening on what you were just talking about, man. It's interesting to kind of give some insight as to how something like that. So the mechanism behind what you were talking about, right? Either cranking up the voltage or decreasing it. See, because the system management controller has code written in it, right, to either jump into, say, like a safe mode type of thing, a safe mode type of setting when the temperature either jumps up or down. So what happens is that altered state of operation now creates a new operating environment. So there's new holes to exploit. Okay, so that's one way to attack it, where it quote unquote coughs up or vomits up the keys. Whereas where you throw it into a different state of operation, then you say, okay, now hit, have something for these attacks here.
Yeah, see, I think it only happens on Intel processors. I haven't seen anything about AMD. And we're fortunate enough to actually have AMD-based computers in the environment. We don't have Intel-based computers. So
well, that, and that's the thing. It's sort of like if you're really trying to, and for the record, disclaimer, I'm not a hacker, people. I don't really know about this type of shit. I work in tech support now, so I just understand how it works. But if you can kind of understand like the clocking cycles, the core functions within like an Intel chip or something like that, you can say, oh, okay, well, if you throw an attack at it that raises the temperature up beyond this point, it goes into this mode of operation, right? so if you understand these things, it's, I don't want to call it reverse engineering, but it is kind of like, uh, reverse engineering in a way where it's like you understand what something does when you do something to it, and then you deduce from that. So, there's just some group of guys that got out there and basically beat the shit out of an Intel chip and figured out that, hey, you can compromise it if you can change the operating temperature of it.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of ways you can go about that. So, I mean, they had a meltdown, which is a Spectra vulnerability a few years ago. Might still be in play if you don't have the update on your machine. And it's a hardware vulnerability at that point. So, all right, let me get to this next item on the docket. All right, here's one from Ericsson, which is the mobile tech company. Now is the time to start your 5G journey. Start now was the overriding message from a podcast I had the privilege of listening to between Lars Martinson, VP and head of Solution Area Cloud and Network Function, and Des Blanchfield, a strategic leader in business and digital transformation, which dived into the third edition of Ericsson's report towards the business potential of 5G for business. Let me expand this out. This is really small. The report shows that the awareness areas of interest and engagement has changed since the initial report was published just 2 years ago, and really highlights the pace of change towards 5G within the industry. Although, as Lars stated, there are still 3 common elements which are introducing new or better experiences: cost drivers and improving the time to market. The forecast is now extended from 2026 to 2030 and allows every reader a visionary view of what is possible within this time frame. In addition, and what I like the most, is a sense of urgency that decisions need to be made in the next 2 to 3 years to really reap these benefits. With many companies and enterprises Ericsson is speaking with, there are still a lot of questions as to how to really capitalize on 5G. However, at the same time, there is a sense of optimism that for those that embrace 5G early on, they do learn fast, but not from just themselves, but by developing ecosystems where co-creation is a vital component. That's a good point. One thing that is crystal clear is that whole space is evolving, and there is a real need to do some simple things, such as developing a common vocabulary and share strong examples that show how the benefits are realized. But what is different with this new generation compared with previous technologies? This report and the blog make a massive contribution towards helping enterprises better understand the potential, which is great. Like Lars, I also share his belief towards the importance of advocacy to show that the 5G journey should be considered a considered mix of long-term vision, which is supported by a phased approach on those things that make sense initially and then evolve. The infamous Lego model. By this, we imply building up your expertise brick by brick, which is an expression I always try to squeeze into every presentation.
Hey, wait. By any other definition, would we call that scalability?
Mm-hmm. I would say so. I really like the further guidance that 5G will never be built on single use on a single use case. That is important to look at opportunities to reuse both the technical and commercial assets as much as possible. Again, This report and its predecessors have made some huge inroads into clarifying the opportunities with 5G. The report outlines a segment and application matrix showing the linkage and the relative size of the addressable market has assisted the understanding and engagement even further. On every occasion, the matrix leads to some good, constructive, and on occasion, challenging discussions with all sorts of people wanting to know more about the what, why, when, and how of 5G. It really is a go-to guide that should be leveraged as often as possible. Within the United States, Lars gets a positive feeling that things are changing as there is a growing perception that 5G is the technology that can do so much more than just mobile broadband. It is a new technology which will drive digitalization and new revenue streams. With a proposed $700 billion possible by 2030, you can see why. I guess the most impressive and exciting aspect is that the need to create an ecosystem and that there is a real desire for enterprises to be part of these, to realize these new opportunities is increasing day on day across all segments. If you just look at how the number of 5G commercial agreements and partnerships, which has accelerated over the last 12 months, it is truly incredible. One of the most important considerations for the communication service provider is to examine what role they will or should be take towards 5G. Network developer, service enable, or service creator. I get asked this question a lot, but there is no simple answer, and it will vary depending on so many factors. Therefore, I raise the importance of the Lego model, and that the role will adapt and vary during the evolution of 5G. One further point that came out of this discussion was the differences between the CSPs that approach the enterprise business customers more actively versus those who don't. It was apparent that for those who do it will be a transformation in terms of what solutions they offer and how they adapt their GTM approach. To transform the GTM is key to build on enterprise to build on enterprise business for the long term, incorporating new solutions and use cases, as well as of course, new technology. I came away feeling very positive after listening to the podcast, as it was refreshing to hear some common themes towards this report, but also new some insight. This is really poorly written. From large experience and interactions with customers too. 2020 will be an incredible year for 5G, and I can't wait to see how many others will start their journey. See, we tried to have this conversation before on a different platform, and I won't mention the platform. And what they said was, you don't want 5G, 5G is always on, the government is watching you, Big Brother's watching you, you shouldn't use 5G. What about cancer? What about the radiation? Your head might melt if you have a 5G phone or something like that. While they talk about that, they're talking about in this blog that 5G is a major enabler.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Who said that? I don't say exactly. Can you give me a hint? Oh,
this is on it was on a different platform, but they basically told me that I didn't 5G is going to give you cancer, it's going to do this, going to do that to you, and we don't need to be having this sort of technology. Let's stay with 4G. Okay.
Yeah. Tell that to Verizon and Ajit Pai and all these people that are pushing for all this legislation to roll this stuff out. Tell that to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just found that to be interesting at the time when they said that. This is only about a month or so ago. They were saying about AI, 5G, and all this other stuff. You know, these things are bad for Black people. We shouldn't be looking at this type of stuff. I said, you know.
Hey, you got that text I sent you, right?
Yeah.
We got for 2020, bro. We got some people we got to reach out to, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right, next item on the docket is from bncrypto.com. 5G can transform IoT. Blockchain can further boost its efforts. The hype surrounding 5G technology and its arrival has been enormous. From tech companies racing to be the first to implement it, to countries dragging the technology into the trade disputes. All right, let me expand this out. Tech enthusiasts are beginning to catch a glimpse of how 5G could change the industry. Professor Rahim Tafazali of the University of Surrey estimates that 5G networks could run at a speed of approximately 800 gigabits per second. This is the equivalent of downloading 33 high-definition movies in less than a half a second. So it's evident that downloads in other data-centric applications will be enhanced. However, 5G has a higher scope, as the technology is speculated to bring about significant improvements in the Internet of Things infrastructure, IoT. Increased speed, reduce latency, and network capacities improve efficiency, while optimized security can keep networks safe as well. Enterprise IoT would see a huge boost. Factories using precision controls could use 5G for granular monitoring, allowing companies to implement more sensors, get results quicker and cheaper. IoT can speed up automation, and with 5G as a background, it could seamlessly allow for interactions between cloud services and other devices on multiple networks. Qualcomm estimates that 5G could add as much as $13.2 trillion to global GDP by 2035. The increased rollout of the technology is expected to lead to an explosion of transactions, with volumes being able to drown out centralized networks that currently are performing at subpar capacity. These transactions can be facilitated through layer 2 protocols that can operate on blockchain like the Lightning Network, Blockstream's Liquid, and Ethereum's Plasma Network, providing the needed scalability and coverage. One area where blockchain could be most effective is helping in the amount of data transferred over the network. The use of decentralized protocols like the Interplanetary File System, IPFS, will likely be important to ensure a stronger security level compared with current centralized alternatives. Also, because the data is stored in hashes on IPFS with links to point into the external storage, any data tampering would only draw attention to the attack. Blockchain technology also does its part to secure the network through distributed trust models locked in with access authentication. Activities like user verification and authentication can be supported using smart contracts. As the rollout of 5G gains momentum across the world, blockchain will likely see a marked increase in adoption. So it's a brother who wrote this as well. Interesting. Jimmy has been following development of blockchain for several years, and he is optimistic about the potential to democratize the financial system. He is an economic researcher with outstanding hands-on and a heads-on experience in macroeconomic finance and analysis, forecasting, and planning. Interesting. So why am I bringing this up, and why does this matter? Blockchain in itself is one sort of mechanism launched as a piece of digital infrastructure. When it comes to fourth industrialized technologies, blockchain is at the forefront of a lot of this, but in order to drive the blockchain, you also have to have other things such as 5G, IoT as well.
You need that every 7 second or less ledger update. You need data transfer that allows for that type of ledger update to happen in real time. Can't have latency.
Right. And so why I read the previous article about 5G is to tell you exactly the direction that Ericsson, who's a global player in terms of mobile cellular technology, they're at the forefront of this. They're saying 2020 is the year that it's going to take off. So this article is just pointing to the fact that IoT, Internet of Things, and 5G will be the enablers behind a lot of this. So keep that in mind when it comes to development of blockchain. You have to think beyond the cryptocurrency and think more about leveraging applications that fall behind it.
Well, I'm saying, man, we already saw like the impact of micro transport, and that wasn't hardly on no 5G infrastructure, let alone blockchain. So that on your little old cheap Android, you was able to summons an electric scooter to take you wherever you wanted to. Okay, you could do it on that infrastructure right there. Wait until 5G hits the scene.
All right, this one is from IoT World Today. It's time to rethink distributed ledger technologies for IoT. Until recently, data governance was often a theoretical sounding concept, but that's beginning to change. Myriad data breaches and ransomware, in addition to data privacy and regulations such as the General Data Protection Regulation and California Consumer Privacy Act, demand new approaches to data governance to restore public trust. With the proliferation of data driven by investments in IoT and AI, the next big conversation is around data trust and ownership, said Jason Shepard, Vice President, Ecosystem at Zadida. Distributed ledger technology may offer some respite. In an Internet of Things context, DLT offers DLT supporters point to the technology's potential to do everything from driving transparency in supply chain projects, supporting self-executing payments, and to improving the cybersecurity of connected devices. In the eyes of adherents, DLTs help build trust. Conversely, skeptics of using distributed ledger technology for IoT view the technology as a poor use of DLTs. A 2018 World Economic Forum paper, for example, recommended that blockchain be used only for purely digital assets rather than for IoT-enabled physical assets. As the blockchain-based cryptocurrency Bitcoin exploded in valuation in 2017, so did interest in potential IoT applications of the blockchain and other distributed ledger technologies. Blockchain boosters proclaim the technology is bigger than the internet. But as the Bitcoin bubble quickly deflated in 2018, blockchain interest also waned. There was a lot of hype around blockchain as the answer for data trust. Then it hit the trough of disillusionment last year as people realized the practical challenges to scale. The DLT use case that got a lot of attention was cryptocurrency. Most people were talking about Bitcoin, but that's not the real value of IoT systems, said Richard Soley, Executive Director of the Industrial Internet Consortium. From the point of view of an industrial IoT system, it's a question of whether you can understand the data that you're receiving is from a particular identity, whether you can trust that. While a few companies have launched blockchain-based projects for IoT applications of recent years, distributed ledger technologies haven't become prominent in supporting data governance. Now, DLTs are becoming part of a broader conversation about trust. The fusion of the Industrial Internet Consortium, which promotes best practices for trusted networking, with the Trusted IoT Alliance, signaled a new chapter for DLTs. IIC already focused on the concept of trustworthiness in an industrial IoT context in a white paper. Trustworthiness, as built on top of distributed ledger, will get a huge boost in the next month or two, Solly said. It's already happening. Initially skeptical of IoT-related applications of DLTs, Solly has become a strong believer in certain distributed ledger technologies. In addition to leading the Industrial Internet Consortium and Object Management Group, Solly serves as the supervisory board for the for IOTA Foundation, a nonprofit organization focused in part on IoT-related applications of distributed ledger technology. The organization's tangle distributed ledger use a technique known as directed acrylic graph rather than blockchain. 3 years ago, Solly researched the potential of distributed ledger technologies for Internet of Things. I decided they were garbage for IoT, he said. But the same day Solly reached that conclusion, he made the acquaintance of the co-founder of the IOTA Foundation, Dominique Schinner. He convinced me that he understood how to solve the problem for real IoT implementations. And the more I looked at it, the better I thought it looked, Solly said. After informally advising the IOTA Foundation for a few months, Schinner asked Solly to join the board. I strongly believe that IOTA is the right technology for IoT systems, but regardless of which distributed ledger technologies win, it will be good to see people build real applications with DLTs around the real use cases, Solly said. As others signaled renewed interest in distributed ledger, the Linux Foundation unveiled Project Alvarium in November 2019. The efforts intends to build intrinsic trust into edge and IoT networks through a variety of technologies. Project Alvarium supports blockchain and other distributed ledger technologies. It focuses more broadly on data confidence fabrics. Achieving data trust at scale requires a system-level approach, starting with silicon-based root of trust at the edge, which is where all data is created, Shepard said. He's right about that. In Shepard's estimation, DLTs can play a valuable role in driving data provenance, but should be used in conjunction with technology such as hardware root of trust and immutable storage. Distributed ledger technology only maintains a record of the transaction themselves. So if you have poor or fake data, it will just tell you where that bad data has been, he said. In addition, in other words, DLTs alone don't address computer science's garbage in, garbage out problem, but offer a considerable benefits when used in concert with technologies that ensure data integrity. While many of the early visions of IoT projects envisioned widespread sharing of data between organizations, cooperative approaches to leveraging data remain rare. We'll never get there without collaboration on the plumbing, Shepard said. As enterprise companies move past proof of concept to proof of value, they are starting to think about the broader opportunity, including the value of the data itself. He said, without confidence in your data, you can't extract maximum value from it. Yeah. So IoT, DLT, distributed ledger technologies, or blockchain for that matter, as the common vernacular is used, the term is used. All of this is starting to come together. 2020 is that year, like the previous article said, from Ericsson Mobile. This is where you can't just say, well, yeah, I'm blockchain certified. Yeah, but where do you apply your skill set? Where is
Dude,
it used?
it's a convergence.
Mhm.
It's a convergence. That's what's going on here. It's a convergence. So blockchain is only but a piece, right? Then there's application. In what venue are we doing this? Is it in media? You know, is it in uh, you know, construction, agriculture? It's application. So, you know, this is, like I said, man, you know, for those of you guys who are old enough to, who have been around to know how the internet rolled out,
Mhm.
Web 1.0, this is no different. I keep telling you where we're at in this whole blockchain thing is where the internet was in 1992. Or Mike, would you say maybe 1994 at this point?
Yeah, circle that area. Circle that area.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So if you guys remember where the internet was around 1994, then it gives you a better frame or scope of the blockchain environment because that's where it is.
Mhm.
Make the correlation.
Yeah. All right, this one is from sociable.co. Future proofing for Industry 4.0, the role of AI, blockchain, and edge computing. The Internet of Things continues to grow at an accelerating pace. IoT investment in 2017 through 2022 will reach $1.2 trillion. This figure represents a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of over 13%. A large portion of this growth will come from industrial applications. As a result of this robust growth, many have begun to use the term Industry 4.0 as a catch-all for industrial IoT applications integrating smart technologies. So here we have, let me expand this out some more. Here what we have is this graph of the IoT analytics, and what they're doing is scaling it out from 1 to 10. Smart cities will make up the bulk of IoT shares. And then number 2 would be connected industry. So your manufacturing and so on and so forth will be second. And connected buildings. So infrastructure, again, this is about smart buildings, schools, hospitals, municipality buildings, commercial real estate. They're going to take up, another portion of the IoT market. And then you start talking about connected cars as number 4, right? Autonomous vehicles, Tesla, Rimac, and a lot of these companies are going to be involved in the IoT segment of these big projects. And then you have smart energy, again, solar panels and wind turbines.
Whatchamacallit? Solar City.
Yeah. And then number 6 is the other, so that could just be miscellaneous items, little devices and things of that nature. Connected health. So we talked about this last week. Digital health.
Apple Watch.
Yep.
Wearable devices. Yeah. What's that called? Well, I guess it's called wearables. I thought there was a more specific term for like wearables that do like monitor your body functions and stuff. But I mean, Apple Watch for one. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 8 is smart supply chain. So now you're talking about um, Amazon, Best Buy, Walmart, so on and so forth. That supply chain of manufacturing from China all the way back to the West, which is Europe and America and stuff like that.
I think you could throw eBay in there too.
Well, they don't manufacture goods, right? So they don't. When you talk about supply chain, you're going from the origin base of, like IBM has with their food trust or their cobalt. So taking the cobalt from the ground, putting it on the blockchain through an IoT process, through an IoT mechanism, going
okay. You're
all
talking
the
about
way
that.
to know exactly where that battery was made. So that's a part of the smart supply chain.
I can see, but the thing is, because like with eBay, for example, right? You got a lot of like Chinese sellers at the factories in China, right? So they have like people who broker for them. And then those people are kind of like the gateway directly to the factory, right? And you can basically work directly through them. But I that's why the first thing I thought was eBay, because I was like, eBay could do something like this. Because essentially what they do is they deal with someone directly at the factory and then bring it directly to the consumer, whether it's in the US or whatever. So I could see them having an application for it. Not quite like what you just mentioned, because that's literally going from resource out of the ground, right? And literally tracking from extraction to market.
Right. I think you're just talking about the logistics aspect, but not.
Yeah. Logistics, because all eBay is doing is getting a product from point A to point B.
Right. And then number 9 would be smart agriculture, right? So cows that have rice grain based Wi-Fi components in them to determine their health, whether or not they're sick, whether or not they should be producing milk, how much milk they're producing, whether or not it's time for them to be slaughtered, so on and so forth.
Also, camping cannabis.
Yep.
Yeah, and also not only that, but also looking at in terms of smart agriculture, you can look at taking in concern of global warming and temperature. You can look at all that and basically look at the kind of crops, and basically certain areas can basically flourish. And basically you can instantly look at the environment and then say, these are the crops that can flourish under these circumstances. Mm-hmm. And that would be automatic.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Engineering cannabis. What's going on, sir?
Hey, what's up? And number 3, one of the parts I was looking at number 3, it's the hotel services. One of the biggest problems, I believe, in most hotels are basically resource energy and basic consumption and all that. With this, you can basically help build a smart hotel then at that point.
Okay, you say that. It's similar to like where if you go to a grocery store, in the frozen food section, some of the stores now, what they do is, in order to conserve energy, they fitted the freezer sections with LED lights that have sensors on them. So the lights will shut off. And if it senses a person walking through the aisle, then the lights will pop on.
So a
right?
small hotel,
so you can do something similar to hotels, right? Where the room itself, it's until someone completes a transaction and books the room, then the energy in that particular room kicks on, right? Based on the transaction.
Not only energy, the water supply,
everything, yeah.
Everything concerning that room, basically everything concerning rooms are basically controlled.
Or how it captures wind and turns it into cooling inside the building, right? Instead of using actual air conditioners, you can design your building to capture all that air from the outside and turn it into.
And also with that, you can also, each time a customer enters the hotel, you can capture his data, and then anytime he basically enters the same hotel, the temperature, everything in his room is basically automatically set.
Well, you
Once
can't
it starts,
capture user data anymore, right? Because of data privacy, right? So that's what we were talking about earlier about governance, data governance. So you can't use that person's data unless they submit it to you, right?
but with blockchain, you might be able to even do that to have access with that if they can permit that.
Hey, Mike, what's that reply you put in the chat there?
Oh, that's the Jay Green. So Jay Green made a comment about imagine if Black people got together and made their smart Black sections in the city. Well, we've been talking about that for eons here.
Once again, I'm gonna reference that text I sent you earlier.
Yeah. So number 10 is smart retail. So we already talked about Amazon Go stores,
Amazon and Walmart,
Target.
right.
Those sort of retail brands, even Starbucks for that matter, will be considered smart retail at that point because they'll be involved in the app and IoT development. Their coffee machines are now Wi-Fi enabled. They're now IoT devices now.
So what is it like? You go ahead and through the app, you order. You place your order in the app, and then the machine makes it.
Well, machine won't make it, but the machine would actually be determine the maintenance intervals for that device, right? So what it does is if it's approaching a threshold for its mileage or the use case for it, it dispatches to a nearby field technician that will come by and service it without actually having to open up a dispatch call or anything like that.
Okay, I got you.
I think another application is basically what I've been looking at is streaming service like Netflix and all that. They will utilize the blockchain IoT technology, especially with registration and subscription, in order to basically avoid more than one individual subscribing to one basically log in and all that. So they will employ that, especially in the streaming service.
All right. However, others have begun referring to such integrations as the industrial Internet of Things, according to iSwoop. Within the IoT industry, IIoT alone will reach a value of $123.89 billion by 2021. So by next year, this time next year, you should see something like this, or late next year, you should see something like this. Regardless of the specific terminology, Industry 4.0 has come to represent the next step in industrial technology. As computers and other devices become increasingly connected to the IoT, further integrations with artificial intelligence, blockchain, and edge computing can unlock additional functionality and value. So you can't just be blockchain focused, you have to be wordly in other technologies of what they call 4.0. Artificial intelligence, edge computing, and autonomous vehicles, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I agree with that because, yeah, you might know, because I started with the machine learning and data analytics, then went to blockchain, and they go hand in hand. If you know how to protect data and know how to basically transfer data, the next question is, what are you going to do with the data itself? So again, it goes to machine learning, AI, and all that. So all these technologies are going to be interconnected in every kind of way and in every industry. So the goal is to have that baseline knowledge in each of those technology and build upon it and go from there.
Mm-hmm. Through the collection and interpretation of data over optimized networks, emerging smart technologies will continue to improve industrial systems and processes. The interconnectivity will push Industry 4.0 forward by facilitating the creation and sharing of information between devices. This is very important. In this article, we'll explore some of the technologies shaping Industry 4.0, how these technologies interact, and how companies can adapt in the future. Industry 4.0 represents the integration of several technologies that aim to improve industrial processes. To understand how these technologies can work together, it's crucial to understand their independent functionality within the ecosystem. Edge computing, so let's talk about this. According to IDC, IoT edge computing is a mesh network of micro data centers that process or store critical data locally and push all received data to a central data center or cloud storage repository in a footprint of less than 100 square feet. So what they're talking about is these boxes that you see on some of these poles, electric poles and things of that nature. You'll have a box up there. That box will actually be an edge computing box. So that's the edge layer that processes all the information and then ships it off to the cloud. You usually see these things, they look like they're mailboxes, but they're not. Or not mailboxes, I'm sorry, like trash cans on a pole, on an electrical pole, but they're not. Using edge computing, incoming data from IoT devices is analyzed before being sent to a data center or cloud platform. And this is the process here. So Internet of Things, you'll have smart devices, smart vehicles, connected systems that generate data and pushes it to the edge. Real-time data processing, local processing that ships it now to the cloud, big data processing in data warehouses. So AWS, Azure, even OpenStack has a whole entire setup for cloud computing, and it's free. So that's what Africans are learning right now is OpenStack, because OpenStack is a open source platform with the Linux Foundation or Red Hat now, IBM Red Hat now, but you can spin up your own cloud services with OpenStack for free. It's really cool stuff that they're doing with that. And that's what Africans are learning right now on the continent, because they don't have AWS, Microsoft money. So they need something that's going to be cost effective, which is free. So that's what they're using at the cloud level. But OpenStack has an edge layer too, and I'll probably get into that another day. Edge computing systems allow companies to keep the majority of their IT and operational technologies geographically close, improving processing speeds and better securing data. Because Industry 4.0 relies on the connectivity of machines and their efficient operation, edge computing functionality is ideal. Artificial intelligence. Industry 4.0 enterprises will collect more data than ever through the deployment of automated data collection systems. As such, AI will have an increasingly robust repository of information to process. Ultimately, the availability of ample data will facilitate improvements in the algorithm that produces platform outputs. So again, data needs to be, these big data lakes that we were talking about before, data warehouses, stuff like that. You have this continuous stream of data that 5G is going to allow to be sent over the air to the edge. That stuff needs to be processed at a high level. So in the cloud, you'll see a lot more AI take place to sift through all that data and make sense of it. That's what AI will be used for.
I mean, it makes sense. It would be the perfect application for that.
Yep. As this next wave of algorithms arrives, deep learning techniques will continue to be popular, but more sophisticated models will undoubtedly emerge. I'm sorry, blockchain technology. Blockchain technology facilitates the sharing of data through decentralized infrastructure. In Industry 4.0, this functionality will further support device interconnectivity while enabling decentralized AI and other smart technologies. For industrial applications, permission or private blockchains will likely be deployed for practical use cases such as supply chain management and data sharing, which is what Engineering Cannabis was referring to earlier about a customer going to a hotel and having his data shared to adjust the temperature inside of a potential hotel room. Permission blockchain infrastructure such as Quarter, Hyperledger Fabric, Quorum, and Ethereum will continue to offer companies privacy and performance benefits in comparison to public blockchains. So this is a diagram of IoT cloud and control center. The linkage between material and data flow creates the needed transparency to enable real-time steering. So manufacturer to cloud, private areas of blockchain, and then supplier, right? Supplier to manufacturer, et cetera, always back and forth. You know how many iPhones are being produced or how many products are being produced based on all of these connected devices through IoT and cloud computing, edge computing, blockchain, immutable, secure information, that's data that's being shared across the wire. You're not going to see that anywhere else, unless all of this stuff comes to fruition.
That's why companies like SpaceX are launching satellites like Starlink, because of this little infographic that you look at right here.
So what I'm looking at and coming up, there will be companies that will be acting like middlemen between you and maybe a bigger company for your data itself. So there will be middlemen that will be saying that basically have access, that will give access to companies based on your permission to your data. So there will be companies that will act basically like middlemen between bigger companies and you for your data itself.
Yep.
Using blockchain.
Yep. The impact of Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is poised to make a dramatic impact across countless industries. Though the integration of powerful and complementary technologies, companies will be able to extract optimal value from each ecosystem component. However, it's crucial to understand how these technologies work together while anticipating potential challenges. Edge computing and AI. When compared to cloud platforms and data centers, edge computing has far less processing power. As such, when AI technologies are deployed at the edge of a network, processing speeds often slow interference. To rectify this, some chip manufacturers are building niche purpose-built accelerators that dramatically speed up model inferencing. Further, many mobile devices are now becoming powerful enough to support AI on the edge. So AMD's and NVIDIA's graphic chips can actually do all of this work at the edge. Very important to write your applications, your blockchain applications and your edge-based applications around these chips, because one chip has 1,000 shader cores on it. These are small processors on the edge. On the graphics chip unit itself. And so one chip has 1,000 processors built into it, if not more. Some of them have 3,000 processors built into it. To rectify this, some chip manufacturers are building niche purpose-built accelerators that dramatically speed up model inferencing. Further, many mobile devices are now becoming powerful enough to support AI on the edge. You see this diagram right here. Today is where cloud computing is. Tomorrow is where edge computing is. So edge computing is emerging right now as of 2020 going forward. 5G and edge computing go hand in hand together.
Can we look at things like mobile hotspots as like blockchain hubs?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something like that.
You said blockchain hubs?
A hub. I'm sorry, not a hub, a node.
Yeah, you'll have nodes. You'll have nodes within edge.
Well, that's what I mean. And could you envision maybe a hotspot serving as something like that? Because we're talking about like devices that have the ability, right?
Yeah, but the device has to actually act as it has to be a stable device, right? A phone can be lost at any point. An edge serving as a node makes a lot more sense because they're stationary. Their sole job is to be a node.
So using the edge as a node as opposed to a hardware device, like using like edge computing.
Right.
You're just saying basically have the node application in like the edge computing environment.
Yeah,
right.
because
Eliminate the hardware. Okay, I got you.
no, the edge is a hardware. Is a
Well,
hardware.
no. I'm saying eliminate like the need for like a hotspot or something like that.
Right, because you can't have nodes falling off of the network just because someone lost their device, right? Or because
Exactly. Right.
battery ran out.
Right.
Not sufficient. By enabling effective AI on an edge network, valuable use cases are possible. According to Microsoft research, surveillance camera use is set to grow 20% every year until 2022. So cameras that have that are AI enabled will process a lot of these facial recognition images at the edge layer. It doesn't have to wait to go all the way to the cloud. It doesn't have to rely on that sort of long distance delivery system.
Look, man, I need to be able to instantaneously recognize your face so I can ticket you for jaywalking.
When maybe not even just that, maybe to open up, when you go into an Amazon Go store or one of these stores.
Oh yeah, right. Because
right,
you're just gonna walk in, grab your shit, and walk out.
Right, in order to pay for things that you don't have to ship it all the way to AWS. It happens at the edge layer within the store itself because the store is
right.
Yep. Highways, construction sites, and security systems around the globe will rely on these data-intensive devices more than ever before because real-time video feedback is crucial. These IoT machines require the functionality of edge computing and the intelligence of AI to meet emerging demands. By reducing network latency and the costs associated with central servers and CDN solutions, CDN means continuous delivery networks. So that's those networks actually act as an edge right now. They are the edge. While real-time video analytics becomes a powerful tool. So we see right here, all these cars and things of that nature, traffic management systems, mapping systems like Google Maps, Bing Maps, and TomTom and GoGo, whatever the Garmin, and whatever the other ones are, Waze and things like that. All that information needs to be shared in order to to create and correlate traffic management and things of that nature. Determines whether or not you should probably take a different route. For instance, a highway traffic camera can recognize irregular driving patterns resulting from accidents. Surveillance on construction sites can assist with safety program compliance, and security systems can become smarter and more efficient than legacy solutions. The amount of data involved in Industry 4.0 process is massive. And while edge computing can improve processing speeds by limiting cloud interactions, sometimes there is too much information to handle efficiently and securely. As such, automatic network management is becoming critical, and blockchain might be the answer. Using smart contract functionality on a distributed ledger network, device interactions become autonomous. Blockchain and AI. As discussed, blockchain technology facilitates decentralized AI technologies. In referencing decentralized data, AI solutions are less susceptible to corruption and data comes more transparent.
You got to work very hard to corrupt something that updates every 7 seconds, and everybody knows it.
Yep. Further, AI outputs can be easily audited should inconsistencies arise. So blockchain audits itself based on how many nodes are on the network that will accept or reject data as it comes along. Companies evolving within Industry 4.0 require a broad perspective and deep understanding of the integrations between core technologies. Perhaps most importantly, businesses need to become familiar with how data flows through their organization. I think Engineering Cannabis was talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot of advantages coming in, especially. And imagine this technology in place with security. With security, if you can have this blockchain and AI dealing with security issues, basically dealing with resources, dealing with security, and any type, basically reduce the amount of human security in there, and then basically it's more automated. So you basically utilize your resources effectively with
Mhm.
AI and especially with security. So there's going to be a big industry using blockchain and AI with security.
Yep. By taking this approach, industrial enterprises can better gauge the appropriateness of specific technologies and how these solutions fit long-term objectives. Executives and managers alike must remain adaptable and open to new opportunities despite the comfort that results from status quo solutions. As Industry 4.0 continues to evolve, companies can achieve large-scale success by pursuing continuous marginal improvements. So it's all about, getting the first down and moving the ball.
Right. First down on first down. Right. Like that means you getting 10 plus yards every play.
Yeah, you
I
got
know.
to go ahead.
I know. And not only that, remember the regulations that might be written dealing with these type of technologies will be written by people who actually try to understand it. So if you want your view on regulations, you need to understand these technologies and how it might affect your everyday life.
Yeah, this is the future going forward. You can't talk about from 2020 and beyond. You can't talk about getting into tech without understanding 4.0. There is, last year, 2019 was like the last year you could actually, you could fake the funk. Now you can't fake the funk anymore.
They're calling it Industry 4.0 now. That's the going term now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But every day, if you're involved in it, you can see how every day these technologies can evolve many aspects of everything from transportation again to cannabis to transportation to hospitality. You can see the evolution of just of these industries just by looking at blockchain and AI and all that.
Well,
So
I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you, engineering cannabis. I guess the only issue with it is if you're doing things kind of like on like the scale on the project level that we do a lot of stuff. Um, that's you're only going to see it if it's there at this particular point. Like we're speaking of this largely from like an industrial standpoint. So I would say by 2022, 2023, most of the apps on your phone, for example, right, will have more than likely have been converted over to some sort of blockchain infrastructure. And that's how on the consumer level most people are going to see it. They're going to just basically see it when like the next app update comes. It's like, oh shit, my Facebook app is on blockchain now, some shit like that.
and with data security, you will see something like that, but it's going to start massively first on the federal level, then cascade down to state, then private. But in terms of cybersecurity and any kind of security, blockchain it's already been adopted, but it's going to be adopted massively as
well
early
that's
as.
on a that's on an industrial scale. So what you're talking about, oh absolutely.
Well,
So
yeah. I think I would disagree with engineering cannabis because government usually isn't the driver of it. It's actually the private sector that drives it, right? So,
Right.
Your major tech companies will be the driver, and the government will eventually adopt it when it's safe to do so.
But in the agricultural sector, it's with the FDA and all that. You have to start with the federal. They control the quality control of food, drugs, and coming into the United States. So they will have to adopt, in maybe in certain sectors, before private sector comes in.
I think the only thing that they would have to do is ensure that any pre-existing laws or statutes aren't being breached by the technology.
Right. They push compliance and regulatory standards, but not the actual technology itself.
Right. Case in point, if you look at how HIPAA laws are written, right, they don't accommodate for the type of technology that Apple now has deployed with the Apple Watch that has the ECG heart monitor function on it, right? Where you can now, it has the ability now, because it's all connected, it's all wireless devices connected, you know, a notification pops up, you're signaling a doctor. Now, we're looking at HIPAA legislation as it relates to a patient's personal conditions, right? And a company that runs a technology that has the ability to facilitate a notice that says a person with a known condition, we're gonna notify some third party or something like that. Okay, when HIPAA was written, it really didn't account for that. You know,
Right.
So that's where what Mike was saying, we're now basically technology is going to be driving legislation. This is where we find ourselves.
Right. All right, this last one on the docket is from nextweb.com. LinkedIn, blockchain beats AI in cloud computing for hottest skill in 2020.
Hey, Mike, real quick, I just want to read a quick comment. Career Heights says, OPM, a federal agency, is already using blockchain heavy. They have a contract with IBM. Bro, if you could, just curious, what is OPM? If you could actually kind of spell that acronym out for us. I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Bitcoin isn't exactly in vogue in 2020, but its underlying technology, blockchain, is apparently still cool. At least that's according to the employment service LinkedIn, which listed blockchain as tech's most sought after hard skill this year. A LinkedIn blog published last week notes that blockchain is the most in-demand skill in the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, France, and Germany, more popular than cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and UX design. The skills companies need most in 2020. Top 10 hard skills: blockchain, cloud computing, analytical reasoning, artificial intelligence, UX design, business analysis, affiliate marketing, sales, scientific computing, video production. I work in cybersecurity, and not seeing cybersecurity up there doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all. We're way past that stage. You should already have a cybersecurity staff and VSOC already implemented in your environment. So blockchain, and why we talk about blockchain so much on the Black Brain Trust, is because this is exactly it. This is LinkedIn saying this. This is not us saying this. We've been beating this drum long before LinkedIn even produced this article. LinkedIn produced an article and says, hey, you guys should actually be focused on these top 10 hard skills, blockchain at the top of it. People look at us and say, oh, that's nothing. You should open up a barbershop. You know, Black people don't need to be worried about this, this type of stuff.
Hey, it's funny you mentioned that this is actually LinkedIn that published this list here, because the link, wait, let me go back over here.
Yeah, the article.
Yeah. The brother Career Heights says that at the OPM, that what he was mentioning is actually the Office of Personnel Management. That's basically human resources.
Yeah, but they're using it through IBM. They didn't create their own, right?
Oh, so, no, not necessarily that they created their own, but even the government is even using blockchain. I think that was the point that Career Heights was trying to make.
Yeah, that's easy if they're not doing it themselves. So
right.
Yeah, but so the top 10 skills, blockchain, cloud computing, analytical reasoning. For those of you who don't know that we have a community tab, go to the community tab, and I just posted the coupons for cloud computing from the Linux Foundation. who just posted.
Was it like 80% off or something like that?
Close to 80% off.
Yeah, man.
Linux Foundation is what's driving a lot of these technologies. In terms of blockchain, they drive Hyperledger. Hyperledger is what IBM uses. The Office of Personnel Management is using IBM's blockchain, which is the stuff that we just posted. So artificial intelligence, we talked about that many times before. It's an enabler. You need to have it in order to drive a lot of this data. Data correlation, data analytics, analytical reasoning. You need to be able to think. UX design, got to design these applications. You know, it's not just about a GUI, but how the GUI actually functions. You have to actually have some kind of psychology background.
I was just about to say that. You got to know human psychology, like how the mind works, you know,
Yeah.
So you have like an intuitive feel when a person is looking at something.
Apple,
there you go. Go ahead, dude. Go ahead, dude.
Apple by far invests millions of dollars into UX development, and why the iPhone is so easy to use is because they know how humans think. They spend a lot of money on researching this type of stuff.
I was about to say, if you want to know why like Steve Jobs was such a goddamn stickler over that type, that was it. Mm-hmm. He was like, dude, I want it to be something where a person just picks it up and they just move their thumb and they just know how to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the rest of it is all, video production, because in YouTube, social media, scientific computing, quantum computing is what they're talking about. Right. Sales, you can never go wrong with sales.
Those are hard. These are the hard skills right here. Yeah.
Blockchain has emerged from the once shadowy world of cryptocurrency to become a business solution in search of problems, said LinkedIn. Which means that you don't have to be in financial services to be seeking new hires who have background and expertise in putting blockchain to use. The Microsoft-owned company then urged recruiters to start familiarizing themselves with how blockchain works and what its perceived benefits are. Companies seem to be saying that the potential of blockchain is worth the gamble. LinkedIn continued. Blockchain has become a line of business for a who's who of corporate world. IBM, Oracle, JP Morgan, Chase, Microsoft, Amazon, and American Express, to name a few. LinkedIn says devs should learn Solidity to work in blockchain. LinkedIn explains that there are two different kinds of skills, hard and soft. I talk about this many times before, hard and soft skills. One or the other, you fall in one of these categories. Guys who are coming from being mechanics and working on, wrenching and stuff like that on engines and whatnot, diesel and gas, usually will fall into the category of hard skills. And people who have a
white collar,
a gift for gab, people who can think
sales.
On their feet. Yeah, people who can think on their feet would be soft people in that skill set. So hard skills are those that pertain to an employee's aptitude for executing specific tasks, mostly technical abilities and specialized knowledge. For software developers, proficiency in C++ programming language world would be a hard skill. Soft skills relate to the way in which those employees perform those tasks, how one behaves, how they think, and their cognitive skills are all examples of soft skills. So remember, I talked about the ability to think on your feet, how one behaves. While soft skills are difficult to measure and perhaps harder to learn, LinkedIn did offer some advice to those looking to break into blockchain this year. Learn the programming language used to write Ethereum, smart contracts, Solidity. I think we've gone over that before, but we could always go back over it again. Or you can check our archives if you're not too lazy. In November last year, Hard Fork reported that job vacancy site Indeed had noted decreasing candidate interest in blockchain-related roles, but that employer demand in the industry has skyrocketed. So, while it might be relatively difficult to make money from investing in or trading cryptocurrency this year, working with its underlying tech still seems mighty lucrative for now. Yeah, I know I've met guys last summer who were blockchain developers. 150, 20 grand. Lambo money. See all those guys pulled up in Lambos and Ferraris at the meetups. So we talk about blockchain on here for this very reason. This is where the market is going. 2020, hottest skill.
It ain't going nowhere, man. It ain't going nowhere.
No, the hottest skill in 2020 is blockchain. It's at the top of the top 10 list of hard skills that companies are looking for. You have people in the manosphere talking about you should go open up a barbershop or have a garage sale to raise money. This is the madness that goes on, and this is what we're trying to push back against.
Again, if you're old enough to draw a correlation, remember where the internet was in the early to the mid 90s. It's no different, folks.
All right, so I wanted to go over these last couple of pieces of an addendum to what we discussed earlier about 5G and why we had the discussion about 5G and IoT. Linux Foundation has free training on business considerations for 5G, IoT, and AI. Learn how networks are being redefined to support a 5G world and what is required of businesses to take advantage of new technologies like IoT, Edge, and AI. Exactly what we were talking about earlier, Edge. It's not the sort of thing that happens when you go to a barbershop when your barber has a razor against your forehead. Edge means a computing layer within this emerging technology. It's facts, though. It's facts. So this is a self-paced course. You should be able to do this in a week. It has 5 chapters. Welcome to 5G world, and so on and so forth. Prerequisites: basic understanding of 5G, IoT, AI concepts and terminology. They're not asking for much. And then it has another additional, which is LFS 111. The other one was LFS 110. Open source software and standards are driving the transition to 5G, AI, IoT. Learn what open source technologies matter most and why. It's the same thing, four chapters this time. Prerequisites, basic understanding of 5G, IoT, AI concepts and terminology. So that's in the docket, in the description beneath the video. It's free. If you want a certificate of completion, you would have to pay for it. It's a beginner course, you can't beat it.
So, Mike, you hear anything interesting going on in the manosphere here lately?
I mean, I'm too busy chopping up game over here, but this is .org. Blockchain technology to change the industries. This is from the Linux Foundation again. Blockchain for business. So they have 2 parts to the certificate. Blockchain, understanding its uses and implications, and 2, introduction to hyperledger technologies. And if you are interested in it, you just click that I'm interested, and it should take you through the paces. I'll drop that in the chat because the article we just read pointed to this. So all right. Oh, Marvin Evans asked a question. Hey, Mike, there are a series of weekend workshops in Chicago on IoT. Do you think it would be a good idea to take it? Depends on what they're talking about. If it's free, I would just take it. I wouldn't see any reason to reject it. Free is a nice price for me.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to see what the goings-ons are. You may end up in a local study group, development group, R&D group, hack group, So if you have a genuine interest in it, yeah, it doesn't hurt to attend to see, to get a feel for the pulse, if you will, especially where you are locally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, Art Newstall, peace to you as well, my brother. Q4 says we're putting haircuts on the blockchain now. No, no, no. They were, people were saying, rather than to, mess around with space exploration, we should open up barbershops. That was the response, and I was blown away by that. I couldn't do it anymore. So
I have a feeling Q's being facetious.
well, other people who maybe watch the replay may not understand that. So
yeah, no, we did get some pushback, for suggesting that we adopt more of a forward-thinking technological position, and I guess the counter to that is to go with the tried and true, barbershop, hair salon, chicken shack. Dude, I'm so not trying to do that right now. Sorry, go ahead.
Marvin Evans says that it's $400. I don't know anything about that. I'd be interested in knowing what exactly they're talking about.
Yeah, can you like shoot us some info or something? We can take a look at it.
Yeah, because that could
are
be
they teaching you? Yeah, are they teaching you something, or like what are you paying $400 for?
It could be a group. It could be a Illinois, Chicago-based group. So you might be paying for something like that. I know the IEEE does a lot of work in these areas as well. So I'm a member of IEEE. So I usually get to, sit in these events, for free because I'm a member. But I know other people who are not members, they have to pay up. So things like
if you can provide some info as to what that is, or there's like some sort of membership dues, or what,
it could be a consortium.
What is
it could be a consortium for all we know.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because I know we have a consortium out here as well that's driving the national standard. So
I was just curious what you're getting, what you're, as an attendee, right? Like you pay $500. What are you getting for that?
Right. So yeah, make sure you check the community tab as well. Again, blockchain, like the article said, is the number one desired skill according to LinkedIn. I'm just quoting LinkedIn said. So LinkedIn is saying this. We've been saying this since day one. We're not all that far off if other major industries and companies are saying, hey, we want this sort of skill set right now for 2020.
Well, LinkedIn would know just as good as anybody, man. The
Yeah,
human resources. Yeah, it's a human resources social networking site. I mean, do you know how much data they gather on people? They got your goddamn resume, they got your work history, your skill set, your posts, your conversations. Man, come on.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. So I see nothing wrong with the articles. They all point in the same direction that we've been talking about. The only difference here is that tonight for blockchain, we're talking 5G and IoT, and AI too, and edge computing. So those are these other technologies behind the curtain that you may not have known about, that are going to be prolific in driving blockchain. Blockchain. Yeah, okay, you spin up a blockchain, Ethereum or something like that. It's not going to work by itself. There has to be something driving that blockchain, and those enablers, 5G and IoT, coupled with it, edge and AI and machine learning, like engineer Cannabis was saying, you're going to need those. Those are parts of the body, man. You can't walk unless you have legs. You're a human.
No, it's like I said, man. Let's draw an analogy to the internet, circa the early to mid 90s. Right? We're in the Netscape phase, browser time, the ability to actually interface directly, intuitively, the beginning markings of that. So we'll keep making that analogy so that if you can actually like refer back to a time around we said 94 now, we're just not 92. 94, remember how the internet was in 94 if you were fucking with it at the time. If you had AOL with Netscape, was the Net Zero around at the time? Or was that like 96, 95?
Zero didn't come out until 2000.
Wait, really? Was that Net Zero wasn't until 2000? Okay,
yeah.
maybe I'm thinking of GeoCities or some shit.
GeoCities is a site, right? I mean,
who had
platforms in circa at that time?
Well, I was thinking of like the free internet services, but I guess that wasn't maybe around till 2000 with Net Zero. Okay, so like around 95, we're talking like Prodigy, AOL, that kind of stuff. And so we're the primitive period of the internet. Okay, the stuff that we're talking about now, that's where that is. That's where that is. You see, so today's blockchain, crypto, 5G, whatevers are tomorrow's Jeff Bezos. That's really the point we're trying to drive here with this.
Yeah, the objective is to insert yourself into the ecosystem itself.
Right.
Right. So we're talking about all these technologies because they're part of a greater ecosystem, which is 4.0. Right. So you got to figure out where you land in these areas, where you reside in these areas, and like the article said before, hard skills versus soft skills, and combination of the two. These are things that can be cultivated. You can do it. You don't have to actually sit on the sidelines and not partake in this industrialization. I think that Black people should have been on the forefront of all this. I've been saying this we've been saying this for quite some time. So I'm not sure if anybody's listening to this would push back against what we're saying. We think that this is right on the money.
Well, when you have firms like Indeed essentially corroborating what we've been saying, dude, I am so sorry, but I'm going to take Indeed's word over the opinions of someone in the manosphere. I just got to say it. And that's coming from somebody who used to be a human resources manager. Like, look, this is what it is. I saw what you sent me, Mike, earlier from the Council of Foreign Relations.
Okay.
Is that going to be on part of the? Is that going to be a part of a docket at some point, or?
Oh, we covered that already. We covered that like maybe 12 or 15 times.
Well, no, I know we covered it 12 to 15 times, but see, I mean, I guess what we have to kind of reiterate these things.
Nah, no?
I
think
okay.
I think we've already beat that horse.
No, but dude, like that, like what you sent me today, that's just coming from the Council of Foreign Relations. I mean, fuck.
Yeah.
What do you want to argue at this point?
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if not already done so. Share the video if possible. Also hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Docket and description beneath the video for you to reference. Also check out the community tab as well.
Hey, Mike, real quick. Hey, Engineer Cannon's had his hand up. He has his hand up. I guess he wants to say something before we close out.
Okay.
Quick question. When you say soft skills, what kind of soft skills do you require? Because when in terms of soft skills, when I'm looking at soft skills, especially with data, it's basically how to communicate that data properly and know what that data is doing. So in terms of soft skills, what specifically soft skills do you believe might be more important in terms?
Yeah, so in soft skills, we talk about cultural intelligence. So that's a soft skill. Emotional intelligence is a soft skill. Collaboration, right? What we do week in, week out on these panels is collaboration, right?
Skill.
It's a soft skill, right? Some other channels, they try to do it by themselves and they get low views and stuff like that. It's because they don't have the soft skills. Creativity, the ability to create a docket and things like that. That's a soft skill. And persuasion, right? So I have to, we have to have the ability to drive the narrative by persuading you to engage in these sort of industrial technologies, right? These are emerging technologies, as well as some of the geopolitics stuff that we cover, right? People believe the things that we say because we're sourcing it, because our sources are credible, and then our analysis is consistent with the source itself. So those are soft skills, whether people think so or not, right? So that's what LinkedIn is saying, right? LinkedIn is saying, hey, these are the 5 soft skills you have to have, and intelligence, emotional, cultural intelligence is very important in these dynamic places and of doing business. So those are soft skills that they're talking about.
All right, thanks. I just wanted to just rectify to make sure I understand.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Thanks. Peace.
All right. Shalom.